well, I have called optimized, and this one I think is quite interesting, but also I think from the outside it very often looks brilliant. Everything's working well, but actually it's harboring some risks, and we'll unpack some of that. Um, but before we dive into that, I just wanted to quickly update you, and Paul, this might be helpful because now that you're in the Make It Human Club, you can access all sorts of things. So you can download this report. I suspect, Cesar, you've already done this, hopefully. Got the report. We also run masterclasses. So there is a virtual masterclass happening next week on the 5th, and then another one on the 2nd. So actually there is a space available on the 5th, and there are several spaces available on the 2nd. So if you fancy more of a deeper dive, or you know someone who does, then that's a good way to do that. And there is also this community that we're building where you can upgrade your membership. So at the minute, most of that's free in terms of what you're accessing. There is a premium level of membership where you can get online, on-demand learning, and then also access to an online community. So trying to build connections and carry on conversations like this amongst, peers who are doing similar things, because what I'm realizing as I work more and more with different leaders is shaping culture feels very lonely. Very often you feel you're on your own, you've got to make all these decisions, and having an opportunity to share experiences can be really helpful. So yeah, just a few highlights of things that you can access. So let's dive in. And I appreciate this is a little bit small, but you'll be able to see it and download it later as well. So the optimized culture. So this is the third archetype that we've identified. It's also it's the third most common in the analysis that we did. The other two were kindly stretched, which was the most commonly occurring one, and then permission based. So when people are deferring to people above them to make decisions, and things kind of grind to a halt a little bit. But this one, as I said, is quite interesting because at a high level, it looks pretty good. Everything in general seems to be working pretty well. So I'll help you navigate this a bit. On the top left there, we've got just a really high level view of the 5 aspects in a growth culture that we look for. And this is kind of saying that across those 5 aspects, 4 of the 5 are pretty strong. So workplace, accountability, community, empowerment are coming out as pretty strong. And growth, in terms of kind of learning, growth mindset, ongoing development, innovating and anticipating the next thing, that's where it's falling down a bit, not massively, but a bit. It's kind of more in the average space. So, from the outset, this looks like a pretty good, pretty healthy organization culture. So if I kind of delve in a bit and start to think about what people might be doing, what they might be feeling and doing. So I'm looking at the bottom left there. Then, things are working well. Teams collaborate smoothly. People respect each other. There's a lot of capability in this organization. They're not struggling for talent or ability. There's a strong identity. So people can talk a lot about what we're about, what our purpose is, how we work, and they will share stories quite regularly about what good looks like, and success stories. So this, it feels really positive, it feels healthy, it feels quite balanced. However, where you might start to see strain starting to creep in is that things like new ideas might feel harder to introduce. So external perspectives might be kind of more cynically looked at. We've been here, we've done this, we know what we're doing. Look, we're delivering all of these great results. This is probably a well-performing business and organization. And so people kind of get in this comfortable space, this middle ground of, we know what we're doing, it's working, we're pretty successful, why should we change anything? And the issue is that things can start to become a bit insular, a bit comfortable. And then some of the signs that this might be starting to head in a slightly more risky direction are things like new hires coming in, sharing some ideas, maybe getting shot down, and then either kind of going, oh, I'm just gonna conform. This is not how it's done here. I'll fall in line. Or you might find that there is a bit of a stream of, maverick talent, they might be called, talented people who are a bit rogue in the eyes of this culture, who then say, this isn't for me. I'm going to head off. So you might see some people start to top out, whether they're new joiners or maybe they've been there a while and they think, I can't really stretch any further. So that might be some of the signs that there's something amiss here. Also, I think things like diversity. So if things, you start to hire in a very specific mold, cookie cutter, and develop and promote people in that mold too, because things are, comfortable with saying, look, we know what we're doing. We need exactly that again. So it just starts to repeat this pattern. And what has worked before, this is how we work. This is what good looks like. This is successful. That becomes the mantra. We know what we're doing. We're very comfortable. This is how it works. And of course, the challenge here is that everything starts to kind of get repeated, and for a while that might be quite successful. And if the market conditions stay the same, and new competitors don't emerge, we could be fine. We could roll along. But actually, this organization is losing out because good, talented, high potential people are probably choosing to go elsewhere. So they're left with, some talented people, but perhaps not the ones who are really going to innovate and take them in a new direction. And I think the big risk is that something comes along and changes that trajectory and they're not ready for it because they've been head down, focusing on what they do and doing it well, but not looking out and not exploring different perspectives. And I was thinking about types of organizations that this might have impacted. And the ones that sprung to mind for me were, BlackBerry and Blockbuster were the kind of two that stood out to me as, well, they were well run, from what I can understand, well run, successful, profitable organizations for a number of years, but weren't ready, didn't know what was coming next, and had kind of got into this state of comfort. So that's the risk, that we kind of plateau, and people top out, and we're not able to anticipate and get ahead of the curve. So that's kind of what it looks like, and some of the risks that can start to emerge. And then in terms of the things that would help to rebalance this culture and just edge it towards this more holistic growth culture, because this culture is really close, is achingly close to being really good. But actually, in many ways, this step can be really hard. It can feel hard because people don't want to rock the boat. You could imagine you'd be in meetings and someone would be like, oh, itching to say something, but oh, I better not. I better not say that right now because I've got this idea, but I'm just not sure how it's going to go down. Or, they feel, oh, I've been there, I've done that. I can't access further stretch and growth. Maybe I'll just go, rather than have that conversation. So, very often this is quite quiet, some of these signs that happen. But I think some of the things that there's a lot that's good. So you look at the maintain box here in terms of the aspects of culture that are really working well. But the things that I think stand out to me as potentially could help nudge back towards a more holistically growth focused organization would be things around growth mindset. So are there ways that we can bring in discomfort? So, get comfortable with feeling uncomfortable, because in this, as we all know, in this world, we need to be able to deal with uncertainty, ambiguity. Another competitor is going to come along, and someone we don't know yet is going to emerge and change that trajectory. So little habits that can help bring the outside in, bringing in different perspectives, having leaders, managers actually facilitate conversations that ask, what if this happened, that happened, or even kind of looking at the future, some of the trends that could impact us as a business, and having some of those broader conversations. And also, I think coaching. So it feels like this potentially is an organization where there's a lot of patting people on the back and saying, yeah, good job, we're doing well. Look, we've done it again, we've won. Here's the success story. But delving a bit deeper into learnings and, what would happen if this element changed? Would we be ready? So rather than great to celebrate, great to share the successes, but trying to get that a bit one step deeper on an individual basis in coaching conversations, but maybe also, as teams, having habits that are more around what can we learn? What could we try? What might not work next time? Trying to just change that narrative slightly. And I think there's some broader things around systems, career development feels like it might have plateaued a bit here in this type of culture. And seeing, creating different paths, different ways for people to stretch within the organization and yeah, challenging that level of comfort. So yeah, those were just a few things that were springing to mind.